Okay, today you have a job to beat that for scenery, wouldn't you? That's Thorne Farm, Nigel Hawke's yard here in Snudley in Devon. We come to visit it on a glorious day, the second part of the Racing Behind the Scenes series. Thanks for watching. This is a good fun one. Okay, today I'm in beautiful Devon. As you can see, absolutely glorious day with Nigel Hawke up at Thorne Farm Stables. Thanks very much, Nigel, for allowing us to come up here and enjoy this wonderful scenery. Can you tell us how long you've been training here?
I think roughly about 10 years we've been here. Obviously I was training before that time, but I think we've been at Thorne Farm now 10 years.
Okay, now you say you started with a blank canvas. I mean, what was Thorne Farm before you came here?
Basically exactly what you can see now. And I always use the description, when you come up the drive, that was never a drive, that used to be a field to go across to get to the farmhouse. We had no electricity, it was all generators, so it was very, very basic, but that is the good thing, because I said we started with a plain canvas and we've just carried on building and adding amenities all the time, which is perfect. I think a lot of these yards, they go into a ready-made yard and everybody does things a little bit different, so we've luckily come here with a fresh piece of paper and just built on it all the time.
So basically then what we can see behind us, it was just the farmhouse that was here and nothing else. We
Yes.
took it over.
Yeah.
So how much work had to go, how much work did you have to do before you could start actually training here?
Well, basically, I was based in another yard, but we got a lot of ground here, so we were using the ground at the time. The first thing that was done here was the gallop, which is the most important thing in any yard, and then we built on from there. You know, we didn't live in a proper house before the gallop was done, so it tells you what the priorities were.
And did the house need doing up as well?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, now you've spent all your adult life, well, basically from when you were 16, so before your adult life, working in racing. So you tell us how that started?
Left school at 16, went to Josh Gifford. I mean, to be fair to my father, he's right. You go into anything, start at the top, and at the time Josh Gifford was the top yard, practically in the yard. I was very lucky, surrounded by an awful lot of very good people. So I was there at the same time as Paul Nichols and people like that. So it was a great education. Summertime, I used to go to Guy Harwood's for the flat season. So I was very lucky in the early days. I started out some very good yards.
And was your dad a racing man?
Father used to ride, grandfather used to train, very much farming bred, if you know what I mean. So it's always been in blood.
Okay, so and also you were at David Barron's for a time.
Yes, to be fair to Paul, I was at Josh's 3 or 4 years as an amateur there. An opportunity came in the West Country to go to David Barron's through Paul. He went there as first jockey, and so I went there with Paul at David's.
Okay, so you've got what we call a state-of-the-art yard here. How much has training changed since their day?
Greatly, especially Josh Gifford's day. It's greatly changed, and it's interesting to listen to Eddie all the time, because he was at Martin Pipe's in the heyday, and obviously Martin Pipe is the man that's changed the whole scene of jump racing.
Okay, now you went on to be a jockey, and you rode over 100 winners. Tell us a bit about your riding career.
Well, I'm pleased you said I became a jockey, because there'll be a lot of doubts about that. But yes, no, I had very lucky in the right time, the right place. Obviously, winning the national, I rode a winner at the festival. It was a short career, because unfortunately I had a bad injury at Newton Abbott, which stopped my career quite early. But yes, the time I was riding, I had a good time.
Now you just sort of slipped that in there, that you won the Grand National, which is in 1991 on Seagram, which is something that most jockeys can't say. So how much do you remember of that? Is it sort of ingrained in your memory?
It's a long time ago, but yes, of course it has. But it's
But every fence, can you remember it like?
No, I always tell you I had my eyes shut all the way around, but it's true or not, I don't know. But it's funny. Yeah, everybody remembers the national, but I remember a couple of seasons before that, I'd just been caught on the line at the festival, a couple of good rides, but I couldn't quite ride a winner at the festival, and I rode a winner that year at the festival, and that at the time that was a good a kick as anything. Obviously, don't get me wrong, the national was a great thrill, but it was a great thrill in the racing terms to ride a winner at the festival.
And how difficult is that to pick yourself up from if you get chinned on the line at the festival? How easy is it for a jockey to sort of try and shrug that off and look forward again?
Terrible, because Richard Dunwoody outrode me, so that was bad news.
Is it one of those that's on film and you can watch it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Now your riding took you all over the world, apart from riding over 100 winners over here. So where else did you ride?
Yeah, I mean, obviously for winning the national, it opened a lot of doors, and yeah, I took full use of it. I rode a winner in Russia. I spent 2 summers in New Zealand riding out there, so yeah, I made full use of the opportunities I had.
Okay, so did you work in yards abroad as well?
I basically just connected to yards. In New Zealand, I spent a lot of time with David O'Sullivan. He was the leading flat trainer out there at Matamata, and rode a lot of work on the tracks there, which was a great experience. I think he was a gentleman trained Horlicks to win the Japan Cup. So like, you know, he was a big wig out there. So I wasn't just jumping. I got involved in the flat in New Zealand as well.
Okay, and was there anything that you picked up either riding or in the yards over there that you sort of adopted and thought that's something we could do over here?
Yeah, I think the main thing I learnt in New Zealand is how to get a horse fit. They were much harder than we were in this at the time, the likes of David Barron's and Josh Giffords. The man I rode for he ran jump racing, and he was a superb horseman. I always said he was the man who taught Mott Todd how to ride, and they say Mott Todd's the best horseman in the world, so it gives you a sort of people you're talking about.
Okay, and you mentioned that an injury at Newton Abbot caused you to stop riding. I assume that was before you really wanted to stop. So did you always have training in the back of your mind anyway?
I always wanted to what level I didn't know at the time, because I was still riding, but obviously horses have always been in my blood. So when I packed up riding, I was always going to do something in the horse racing world somewhere along the line.
Okay, so now fast forwarding now, you're a successful trainer in an established yard. But being an ex-jockey, how does that affect your relationship with jockeys that are riding your horses?
I think it makes things a lot easier, because I put myself in their shoes at times, and I think obviously the experience of riding, I understand races a lot better than a lot of trainers do, if you know what I mean, which helps. You know, I don't ask jockeys to do something they can't physically or mentally do. You make it as simple as possible. It's not rocket science, this game.
Okay, so how much of what you learned along the way with Josh Gifford and the others do you still use now? I mean, I assume there's no book how to be a trainer, so I mean, how do you get your techniques?
I think the bottom line, everybody does things different. You train to the facilities you've got around you. That's why we're always trying to improve our facilities here to do as good a job as possible.
Okay, now, so what are the facilities here at the moment?
Well, basically, you see we've got a lot of ground here. We've got 2 schools. We've got a 7 furlong, 8 furlong mile all-weather gallop. We've got a sand track as well. We've got 2 schooling grounds. So we've got an awful lot here.
And is it now a completed project? Or
No, they will never be completed.
Can you tell us what you're looking for next?
Always things to improve, little things. I mean, every horse you try to treat as an individual, so for that reason there's always little things that you need to tweak or things like that.
Okay, now I looked at your website, which everybody should have a look at. It's quite impressive. You say that you like to think outside the box. Have you got any examples of that?
Yes, I think generally have to. I mean, trouble myself, like vast majority of trainers in this country, we haven't got an open checkbook. So the buying and things like that, we've just got to look at different routes all the time. You know, through luck of I've fallen into a couple of very nice avenues at the moment, which the bottom line, we're in the business to train winners, and that's the best way of doing it.
Okay, so how many horses can you take here?
All told, we've always got about 70 around the place.
Okay, and are you looking on expanding that number?
I like quality, not quantity. I love to have 70 good horses, but it doesn't always work like that, so we train to what we got, really.
Okay, so are you in the position where you could say, you know, I don't really want to train this one because it's probably no good?
Well, I do that now. If I don't think a horse can win a race, I don't train it.
Okay, so I also read that you're quite active in the sales, and first of all, I've seen this word young stock. Can you explain what young stock is?
Well, I mean, basically, and I know you're going to interview Eddie later on as well. Eddie was very friendly with Jim Bolger, so we've always had a certain nice sort of young horse that comes from Jim Bolger, so that's one route we go. We got 6 or 7 broodmares here, so we're breeding young stock at the present moment as well. We go to France, we buy young stock everywhere all the time. And it's been well publicised, but we're basically it's happening in English racing now. We're a nursery ground for the rest of the world, and that's what we're doing with jumpers as well. We are quietly now sending a lot of horses to America to race in America. We produce in this country, and they go to America. where the prize money talks, and it's very good prize money.
Now, I assume that I interviewed somebody recently that uses like biomechanics computer programs to see how a horse walks, etc. I'm assuming you use your trained eye.
It's called stockman. Yeah, you can have all the equipment in the world, but you can't be a good stockman.
Okay, so can you tell us a few secrets? What catches your eye? What are you looking for when you go to buy a horse?
It don't catch your eye. You either like a horse, you don't. And I'm a great believer. You go in the stable and you don't like a horse, walk away from it. You know, there's no certain eye to it. You either like something takes your eye, or it doesn't.
So it's instinctive.
Yeah.
So instinct. How much did instinct play in buying Tiger Row for £10,000?
Classic. I mean, he wasn't perfect. Confirmation. He was a well-bred, very correct horse. He certainly wasn't the biggest in the world, and that's most probably why I got him for the price I did. But at the time, we were buying a lot of that type of horse, producing them, hopefully win a bumper race or over hurdles and move them on again. Obviously, for that one particular horse doing so well, the market's gone, and this is why we're looking in different avenues now. You know, at that time, that horse was at the right price. I wouldn't have spent much more money on him because he wasn't the biggest in the world. But, you know, it makes me laugh. People always say to me, well, you'll have to keep Tiger Row. Well, who's to ever know what he ended up doing? But I would get as much kick at buying Tiger Row than winning the National, because he's been so good for racing, and it's done us a lot of good as well.
So at the time, it was a good 3 months' work. You sold him for 70,000. What can you remember anything that attracted him to you the first time you saw him?
Yeah, he was, as I said, I was born at Doncaster. He was just a nice looking horse, and he was well bred. He had a couple of issues, but they weren't huge issues. And I think when you're in that market, that sort of price range, it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. And it's luckily he turned out right.
Yeah, and you say it's good for racing, not only winning the Grand National, winning at Cheltenham, but you bought him for £10,000. So it's still possible to find a really, really good horse in the national hunt scene, at least for that sort of
That
money.
is a very important thing. The whole game of jumping is about dreams. That just shows the dream can come true.
Okay, now how big a part of the Thorne Farm business is bloodstock?
I think it's as important as anything, because you don't buy right, you don't have winners. You've got to buy right in the first place.
Okay, now finally, you're once again looking at your website. You're very big on. You've got your own racing club, and you also encourage syndicates, and there's information about how to form partnerships, etc. How important to you and to your yard do you feel that is, and for racing?
I think for racing it's huge. As I said, racing's got problems. A lot of them are self-inflicted. The big owners are a very, very, very small percentage of racing. We have got to look after the grassroots of racing, and obviously the grassroots of racing is the syndicates, the racing clubs, things like that. So I think we've got to make every effort to look after them, improve the prize money at that lower level, which encourages more people into it. It can be done, and it's got to be done. But yeah, there's certainly a market there.
Okay, so a lot of talk about too much racing at the moment. So would you rather there was less racing at the lower scale with more prize money, or would you be happy with the opportunities that the extra racing gives you?
No, I think, same again, my own opinion, I know there's been a lot of talk about summer racing and knock-it jump racing. I think we're in an entertainment business. The likes of Newton Abbott are crucial for summer racing, because they get them, you know, or Tall Bay and places like that. So I think that's very, very important. I think they got to realise people don't go summer racing to see good horses. They want to see good racing, which is maximum fields. I think the lower grade races, the prize money should be doubled, so it makes it more attractive for people to race in those type of races, and that's what I call the tourist market. 9 to 5 people want to see in the middle of summer. I don't totally agree. A good prize money, some of these novice chasers, because you end up one good horse and the rest is rubbish. I think the whole system needs rejigging a little bit. There's a market there, and I think it's got to be done properly. All right, what have we got here? How was that? Right. How was slow coach?
Good. That's the only time he actually travels, is when he jumps.
Yeah, enjoys that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
All right, proper job. Do you want Eddie's here a sec? Do you want to do Eddie a sec?
Right, Eddie Buckley, you're Nigel's right-hand man, I hear.
Yeah, assistant trainer.
So what's your story in the racing game?
Oh God, how long have you got? Well, I used to be a jockey, good one. And then after that, I went and worked for Martin Pipe for 20 odd years and been to Australia, worked the race horses over there, so I've been around a bit.
Okay, who did you work with in Australia?
Bart Cummins and Colin Hayes, the two guys over there, only two really were working for top trainers in their time.
Okay, so what you were with Martin Pipe then, obviously.
I was with Martin, yeah, in the good days, in the 80s and 90s. Lots of winners, yeah, so some really good horses there and good times.
So tell us about your riding career. How many winners did you ride?
I rode winners in Ireland and over here, 50 total. But I should have ridden a lot more. I didn't get a chance.
Okay, so what was your background? Were you born into a racing family?
No. Mother was a teacher, father was a mechanic. And none of the rest of the family have any interest in horses at all. So I have no idea.
So how did you end up gravitating to Thorne Farm?
Well, I've been with the Pipes for a long time, and I was getting a bit stale there. And David had taken over. Lots of things had changed. There wasn't the same buzz about the place. Basically, I just got stale. I needed a change, and it was Roddy Green actually, who told me that Nigel might be looking for someone. So I gave him a ring, and 7 years later, here I am. I'm still here.
Okay, so what's the main role of an assistant trainer?
Basically, just as you said, Nigel's right-hand man, helping him with entries, helping him with you know, getting the horses fit, training them, schooling them, basically everything really. Going racing, driving a box. And when I came here first, I ended up actually, what were we doing with some sheep one day or something? Lambing, that's it, lambing, yeah, which was a bit of a shock.
The lambing day's gone now.
Yeah, thank God for that, yeah.
And do you still jump up on a horse and?
Yeah, the odd time, yeah, the odd time. But you know, when we're busy, it's hard to get the time to do it. But yeah, try to keep my hand in.
And what would be your favourite part of the job?
Winners. That's definitely the favourite part, when they actually win, and especially if you have a young horse and you bring them on and all the usual cliches, you bring them on, watch them getting better and better, and then they win. It's very satisfying.
Okay, do you get your head in the form book as well? Do you sort of know
Yes,
when they should win?
yeah, you have to do that. I'm afraid it's part and parcel of the job. Got to know the form book inside out, and the handicaps and the whole lot, because there's so many experts on TV now that you get caught out dead easy if you're not up to speed with that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, and then we're up here on an absolutely beautiful day. I suspect it's a little bit different in the midwinter, isn't it?
Oh yes, yes. It can be chilly, but it's very good for the horses because it's such clean air, and you know, horses are naturally healthier when it's colder. So it's very good for them. Very, very fresh.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for coming on to camera and talking to us.
You're welcome.